Yeah, that's right. I see the chat. I see y'all rocking. I see y'all coming. Hit that like button as you enter the building. You know what I'm saying? Hit that like button. Show your love. Show your support. You know what I'm saying? This that dope soul. This that new thing. Nobody don't know about it.
Salute, Knick family. Hold on. There we go. Salute, Knick family. Welcome to the Just Nick and It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, a.k.a. Queen, and we are joined by I Am Jarrell, Geoff Klafter, Ajay the Villain, everybody who's in the chat already. As always, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to review the week, talk about the Golden State game, give this panel an opportunity to give their thoughts on the Tom Thibodeau, Josh Hart verbal altercation. I think that's even a bit strong. But, you know, those who want to give their view, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Miami game, Mitch's best game since he's been back. We'll talk about a little bit about the Dolan interview for those who watched it on the Roommates podcast. I thought that was pretty dope, actually. And then we're going to talk about, you know, the Twin Towers, or the new name, right? The double big lineup with Cat and Mitchell Robinson, and how that, you know, may help the Knicks, any challenges to it, and whether or not Tom Thibodeau is just in an era gone by, right? With the 3-point shooting and what have you. He's doubling down on rim protection. We'll talk about that as well. But let's just start with, how's everybody doing?
Salute. Happy to be here. Salute to the chat.
Salute on a Tuesday. On a Tuesday,
right? We was here, 5 days ago?
Yeah. And a lot has happened since the last show, too.
Yeah, exactly. We've had 2 games. We played a tough loss to the Golden State Warriors, a win against Miami, where I think the first quarter was like 19 to 29 or something like that. And the Knicks just methodically came back and wound up blowing them out. But let's start with the Golden State game and Josh Hart and Tom Thibodeau. Big deal or nothing really to talk about there? Jarrell, Geoff, and then Ajay.
To me, I think this is obviously not a big deal at all. If I'm Tom Thibodeau, I'm mad at Josh and everybody else. Seemed like all the aggression was towards maybe themselves and them fighting themselves, but they should have been fighting Draymond Green at that point. To me, I didn't like I guess we will talk about it, but I hated the end of the game. But yeah, the argument between Josh Hart and Thibodeau, I don't think that meant anything at all. I actually, like my teammates to argue a little, or teammates and coaches to get their points across, because that means, Tibbs actually respects Josh, or he wouldn't argue with him at all. But yeah, I don't think it meant anything negative.
Yeah. Jack?
Well, if it's not a big deal, we need to make it one, because the way that Josh Hart responded against Miami,
True.
You didn't fight every game as far as I'm concerned, because that was the most focused and best I've seen him play in probably since before he went on the West Coast trip. So, I don't have an issue with it. I kind of agree with JJ. I'm more disappointed that they were all dapping up Draymond after the game than I was that Hart. And, tensions get high. You mix it up. It's highly emotional, highly charged situation. You said a few words back and forth. It doesn't look like it's a fracture in the locker room or anything like that. So I'm good with it.
Yeah. Ajay?
Man, Queen, salute to the chat, for being here on a Tuesday, man. I like that. Off schedule, and then people are still coming in here to hang out with us. That was nothing. Like I said on the Queen's Court, to me that was a big nothing burger. Like I typed in. I didn't say I typed it because I was in the chat. I didn't see anything with it. It doesn't, it was nothing. And shout out to JJ. Listen, man. If we were the bad boy, the Detroit Piston bad boys, all them hugs and kisses after the game, and PJ Tucker would have caught a beat down back in the locker room. Like what's all that love, Draymond, I love you nonsense, man? Man, forget that stuff, man. You with the Knicks now. Or you with the Knicks or you want to be Golden State Warriors. None of that nonsense over here, man. Save your hugs and kisses for after, like away from the cameras. And I don't care, about all this NBA brotherhood nonsense. A guy disrespect your teammate, you don't show him no love. I'm sorry. And you ain't playing no minute.
Especially since Towns just walked off the court.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Letting you know exactly how he felt about it.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know we was just going to dive right into that. Because, I got bars.
JJ brought that on,
pissed me off too. I'm not going.
Go ahead, Jarrell.
That really pissed me off. Like nothing. Stuff really doesn't bother me when it comes to players. A lot of times, when it comes to my fandom, I usually side with the players, and I don't mind being buddy up into a point. That really pissed me off, though. I don't usually don't have any type of vengeance towards what players do off the court, after the game and stuff like that. I really don't usually care. That really pissed me off, though. Like Mikal Bridges was over there kikiing. Like if we got beef with another show, Steph, I'm not kikiing over there. It's on site.
That's it.
I'm not going on their show and kikiing if they have a problem with you or anybody else on the screen. That's just how I'm built.
That's what it is, man. That's what
I don't get it. It's like PJ Tucker, I can see he's new. Mikal Bridges, he's quote unquote new too, but like you got to read the room, especially since Mikal Bridges is up there talking to the media. I hear the echo again.
Jarrell,
I'm sorry, that's me.
PJ Tucker's new. With me, he would have been real old, real quick. That 10-day contract would have been expired.
Yeah.
Goodbye. I'm not reciting him. Goodbye. Go play over there. You want to be over there? You want to be all up under Draymond? I love you, Drake. Just go play over there. I don't need you over here.
It was even worse because, like Steph said, the way that Cat walked off the floor, everybody else should have walked off the floor with him. Everybody. Even the assistant coaches, everybody should just walked off.
Man, listen.
I don't think it's a type of fracture in the locker room, but if I was in the locker room, it would have been fractured that night. Yeah. They would have known I was pissed if I was Cat. But I kind of feel like this is kind of his fault too, because going into the game, if I'm Cat, you already would know the energy that I'm on. You wouldn't have kikied with them after the game if it was me.
True.
Like they obviously didn't know that going into the game, or they wouldn't have done it. Like I don't think they would have disrespected him like that. That would have been disrespectful. So I blame a little bit on him acting like it didn't bother him when it clearly did. Like if it's going to bother you, act like it's going to bother you.
You know what? Do you think part of it is that this team just hasn't been together that long and haven't really formed those bonds just yet?
Queen, they do that in the NBA. Like they all do that. Like all the teams. Like you got beef. You guys go like there's a fight. One guy get ejected, and at the end of the game, all kisses and hugs. Like no, why? Listen, if you knock an opposing team player on the floor, you don't pick him up. Follow that same, keep that same energy after the game, man. Walk away. Like why are you hugging and kissing? I don't care if the guy was on your team last year. I don't care if you go golfing with him. That's not my problem.
Maybe we just old. That's what
none of that love. I don't want that love, man. I want you
to me, I guess once our showers are in the same building, I don't care how long you've been on this team. You better walk out of that tunnel when I walk out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Or walk into the tunnel. I mean, going back into
you gotta have your teammates back in that situation. That's
Draymond,
it felt like to me like they abandoned Towns. Like if Towns walks off, like if Towns went in the line and he's dapping him up and he's cool, then that's cool. But you gotta follow his play, man. If he walks off the court, and they had beef in that game after, like after Draymond had said the stupid stuff that he had already said. So to me, I would have taken my cue from Cat, and if Cat walked off the court, I'm right there behind him.
Yeah.
So,
kudos to Cat. Go ahead.
I was gonna say they need to watch 30-30 with the Bad Boys 30-30. How those guys walked off the court when the Bulls beat them. How the Detroit Pistons walked off the court. Like don't shake nobody's hands. You beat me, F you. Go to the finals and get you. I don't know. I don't care.
Go to the finals. I don't care.
I'm not wishing you the best of luck and none of that stuff. I wish you get beat over there.
So salute to DX Relish in the chat with the Sixers fans. Salute to him. He came back.
DX.
I like that.
He's
man.
strong, man. I respect the heck out of that.
No, he enjoys the show, man. That
awesome.
speaks volume. I love that.
Yeah,
Man, I see Paul George is out too for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got another star though. We might talk about it later.
Yeah. That's definitely on my list. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, shout out to Cat though. You know, Draymond calling him soft. I don't know. Obviously he didn't see it. He might have heard it. Somebody might have showed it to him in the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And he was baited into that, and into that foul. And for him to come back in that second half and respond the way he did on Draymond, to the point where Coach Kerr had to switch the lineup and switch Draymond off him. I like to see that. I like to see players respond, and he did. And like I said, I never thought he was soft, but it was good to see him respond in the second half against the Golden State Warriors. And to the original question, yeah, to me, it's not a big deal between Hart and Thibodeau. I know some may think, that should stay in the locker room. The fact that it boiled over into the court, that may mean that there's a fracture between coach and players, or maybe it's indicative of a bigger fraction between the team and Tom Thibodeau. I don't think so. And for me, it was just good to see Tom Thibodeau was going back and forth and giving it back to Josh Hart. So for me, no, not a big deal. All right, cool. Anything else about the Golden State game before we move on to Miami?
The game itself?
Yeah, we talk about the game itself. That's crazy. we talk about
yeah, right. We didn't. Yeah, that's true. Go ahead, Adrian. You want to talk about the game itself?
No, but I'll say something real quick. I really wanted that game, Queen. Because first of all, it kills me that. So the hardest thing to do is to stop Golden State Warriors from scoring. We did that. But then we lost. We couldn't score. We couldn't score. Like we held them. What was the score?
97, 94.
97. We kept them under 100. And listen, this team, the Knicks team, they score 100 in their sleep. And we couldn't score 100 to beat that stupid team. That would have been like a double banger for me. I can't stand Draymond. I can't stand Jimmy Butler. I'd love to give like a two-piece, like kill two birds with one stone, and see their stupid faces walking off the court. But whatever. Next year, I guess. I have to wait till next year.
Yeah, Ajay was. He was. I don't know how many texts I got. We was talking about something else. I wanted that game. Then we was talking about something else. I wanted that game. I get it. You're gonna be talking about. You finally let go of that Brooklyn game a few years ago. It's gonna take you probably another season or two to let go of this game.
At least after the Brooklyn game, they wasn't keying with the enemy and stuff. They just walked up.
Yeah, that was the cherry on top, man. That was like the last straw for me. But the game, it was we played well. Of course, we know Josh Hart gave you nothing. The bench gave you nothing. Brooklyn Bush, the bench gave you 4 points. 4 points.
And we lost by
three. It was 97-94.
Right.
Josh Hart 0, like nothing.
He did have 7 rebounds and 7 assists, so he didn't have complete zero. He just couldn't make it out.
Yeah,
and an argument.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
I know, right?
And an argument.
So, but yeah, I really, whatever. And another, and on national TV. So people who not from here, who don't watch MNG, like every time they watch the Knicks, they be like, this team is crap, because every time I watch this team, they lose, except for Christmas Day.
That is true. We lose every time we're on national TV, except for the, I guess it was a couple games that we.
A couple of Christmas game was one. Yeah. Yesterday was on national TV too. Yesterday was on.
Yes.
On
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even when we were up 25, all they could talk about was that we were frauds.
Yeah, we were what?
Frauds.
Frauds.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the Miami game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
whole-
Well, let's get into that. Mitch, best game yet, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, 2 steals, 2 blocks. I think he heard the criticism from the game before, which, I mean, he was working his way back. I didn't think that was that big a deal, but he came out, he played 24 minutes, the most he's played this season. And he gave us, I think, what most of us thought he would, on that end, just a really big defensive impact. We'll talk about him and Cat together. I mean, we could touch on it now if you want to, but we have a whole segment dedicated to that. What stood out for you in the Miami game, whether it's Mitch or non-Mitch related? Geoff, we'll start with you.
Nicole Bridges was phenomenal in that game. I mean, he just, in Brunson's absence, he's really picked up the scoring mantle, and he just has elevated his game. And it's kind of like, can you do this when Jalen is still on the floor, or is it just because you have all those opportunities? He's shooting over 63% from the field, something like that, since Brunson went out, taking good shots. I think he was our leading scorer with 28, and it was a hyper efficient 28. I think he was even 4 of 6 from 3-point land, something like that. So really great game from him. From a scoring aspect, Josh Hart was back. We got triple double Josh Hart, which is my favorite version of Josh Hart, and and Stocks too. The ball moved well. The bench was even getting into. You had Landry Shamet and Campaign. Both had good contributions. Even Precious Achua, who we've been killing, or we did on the last broadcast on the Queen's Court, he played 10 good minutes of defense in that second quarter. And then before I give it to Ajay and Jarrell, a 15-0 run by Cat. Like, just by Cat. That is impressive. That's not – you don't see that too often in the NBA, even among the best players, to score – 15 straight points without the other team getting. That was, I mean, it turned a game where we were lethargic, and it completely changed the energy of the game. And even though we were down by 2 at halftime, it just felt like it was our game at that point. I felt more comfortable. Like at the end of the first quarter, I was like, oh man, we're down 10. We're not, we're obviously not into this game. We can't buy a bucket. But after that run, even though we were trailing at half, I really felt like we were going to win the game. So really big run, impressive stretch from him, just taking over the game at a time when we needed it. And then in the second half, I mean, they needed to call the ambulance, but not for us. I always like to beat the Heat. I mean, we're all here, we remember Pat the Rat and the 90s and Zoe and Ewing and all that stuff. And I know Ajay doesn't let it go, and I don't let that stuff go lightly either. I still remember, Miami, always being a big game on the schedule regardless.
Yeah, for sure. Ajay, anything about that game stood out?
Well, I mean, one thing, first of all, I never at any point in that game felt we were going to lose that game. Even when we started slow.
Wow.
I've never thought he was going to lose that game. After the first quarter, I'm like, let's see what I'd had. By the time halftime got here, we only down like 1 or 2 points or whatever it was. I was like, okay, this game's over. There's like Miami, they just don't have anybody on there to beat us. Tyler Hero, he's good, but you put somebody on him to bother him, it's a problem. Our defense was tremendous yesterday. I mean, those guys played really, really great defense yesterday. Okay. Duncan Robinson, he wasn't going to do much. We know that. I mean, they didn't, what's his name from the Warriors didn't play. Wiggins wasn't playing.
And he started the game before, I think, against Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, not that he would have made a difference. Not that, Terry Rozier was. I mean, there's nobody there that we couldn't beat, even without Jalen Brunson. So I was never worried. But Hey, listen, Mitch, he's starting to get his legs under him. It was a very good game for him yesterday, and you see the disruption he brings on defense, right? I mean, not just the block shot, but the steals and the closeouts. Like I think if you watch it on ESPN, I don't know why I watched it on ESPN.
Did we have a choice yesterday?
I think we did.
I didn't even know that. Oh,
and that's what I think we did, because I see some clips online today where they were talking about where I hear Clyde's voice in the background. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if that's a
it was on MSG. It was on MSG too.
It was MSG too. So
wow.
I did, yeah. So
see, I didn't have a choice.
No,
it
see,
wasn't on League Pass, so I had.
That's why I say I don't know why, because I always check to see if it's on MSG. Yesterday, I saw the ESPN on schedule, so I just put it on ESPN. But anyway,
you're right. I'm in Georgia now, so you're right, Geoff. Yeah, I don't think I had a choice either.
Look at Queen is like, wow, like she okay. She didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice.
If you can avoid Doris Burke and Richard Jefferson, do that.
But I thought Doris Burke was really good and complimentary of Mitchell Robinson in the game last night on ESPN.
They pointed out like a couple of times he's under the basket when the pass is made out to a 3-point shooter. He closes out, like he runs to disrupt the shot, and it was very effective. So yeah,
I think the weight that he lost really helps him with that, because we haven't seen that for a few seasons.
Fantastic point.
Yeah.
That's a great.
His mobility is really, really good.
All right. Yeah. So listen, it puts
Skinny
his back
Mitch,
on.
as JJ calls him.
Skinny Mitch. Yeah, it puts his back on winning track. So that's good. Let's keep on rolling with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot stood out. One, coming back off a road trip, a lot of times that first game coming back from a West Coast trip is considered an extension of the West Coast trip, right? And sometimes it's you're lethargic, the time difference, and we kind of saw that in the first the first quarter. But the way they responded, like this team, and I get it, we haven't performed the way we would like against the elite teams. But unlike in the beginning of the season, you really get to see them respond. You really get to see them fight back. You really get to see them dig back and try to get back into games when they're down. And yesterday was an example of that. Just the heart, the effort, and we needed everything, to get back in that game. Mitchell Robinson's defense was key, but those 15 straight points, to your point, Geoff, from Cat was needed as well. So it's a good mix. It's going to be interesting to see as the season goes on and how we get into the playoffs, how Tom Thibodeau works these lineups, because when you optimize the lineup for defense, the offense takes a little bit of hit. When you optimize the team for offense and trying to get shooting and spacing in there, the defense takes a hit a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see, how surgical Tom Thibodeau is in terms of, what do we need? I've seen some lineups sometimes. This may not be exact, but like somebody like Mitch, Hart, and Precious, like 3 like non-shooters in a game at times. And I'm like, wow, that's not something I would ever do or want to see. But it's possible that Tom Thibodeau is just saying, you know what? Right now, we just need defense. This team may not score a lot of points, but right now we need stops. And that may be why he's putting, this Flintstone Bam Bam unit in, I call them. And then there's other times when we're 5 out or 4 out and Josh Hart, and we've seen that team for close to 50 games. That's not the best, defensive team, though it has gotten better of late. So, sometimes you kind of know what you're giving up defensively and offensively with a rotation, but you just feel like we can get by. We can squeak by. This is just what we need right now. What's your thoughts on the rotations since Mitch has been back? Whether it's more offense, whether it's more defense, whether it's mixing the bench with the starters. Your thoughts on the rotations. Ajay, we'll start with you, then Jarrell, and then Geoff. If you have any, if you've noticed anything.
You know me, Ajay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. One thing I noticed is, of course, Precious Achiuwa is getting less and less minutes, and not that he shows that he deserves more, because we've had a couple of real terrible games from him. Like, he really needs to get his act together, especially and Queen, I think I pointed out to you yesterday watching the game, like, Precious, even in a game like this, he's not getting minutes. At some point, you figure, like, when they was throwing everybody in there, they would throw him in there, but they didn't throw him in there. They didn't put him on the floor. So he's kind of starting to be in the doghouse a little bit.
You mean that he didn't play in garbage time? Like, even in garbage time, he didn't get minutes?
Right.
Okay.
Even in garbage time, he didn't get minutes. And it's not like we had Huck Porty to play, because at some point, Cat, I think you text me like, why is Cat still on the floor? Could have been Precious, or should have been Precious, I mean, the game, a couple of minutes left and the game's about to be over, but he still wasn't getting those garbage minutes. So, I mean, listen, that was to be expected with Mitch coming back, that he was going to lose minutes. But then the little bit of minutes you're getting, you're not really producing. You're not doing what the coach wants you to do. You airballing, 8-footers. Your hand, you don't have good hands. The ball slip right through your hands, and you're not grab, and stuff like that. So you're not going to get playing time doing that. But otherwise, the two bigs lineup, I don't see. I thought it would look awkward. It doesn't. So far, the little bit of time they've done it, I don't see any problem with the spacing. I don't see any problem at all. Like, Mitch, Mitch is where he needs to be. Cat doesn't play under the basket. He doesn't have to. And when when he's driving, like, I don't know, I can't remember if he drove under the basket while Mitch was in the game. I don't know if he did that, when they had the two bigs lineup. But again, it hasn't been a problem. As I'm watching the game, it doesn't look awkward to me. It looks like it's something that could work.
Yeah. We're gonna have a full segment on that as well.
And I think
Jarrell?
somebody.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, somebody mentioned Landry Shamet, who had a very, very good game yesterday. I mean, he was full of energy as usual, but he was also scoring the ball yesterday. So he was making some really good plays yesterday. We're gonna need that off the bench. We're gonna need this bench to pick up to really be productive on both ends on the floor if we're gonna get anywhere in the playoffs. We're not gonna go anywhere without a good bench. And those guys, if they can play, man, they need to strap up and get this thing going now. And I'm starting to see that with them. Yeah.
I mean, you hope that the Knicks starters and bench are able to turn up a little bit in the playoffs. But I agree with you. We definitely need the bench right now. Deuce McBride is our best player coming off the bench, all around player. But the offense is up and down. Hopefully in the playoffs it's a bit more consistent. But he can't lead that bench offensively by himself. So we're gonna need, if Shamet is the guy, we're gonna need more from him offensively. I'm not sure where else. Mitchell Robinson will probably be starting at that time. Will he get some minutes with the bench unit? I'm not sure. Josh Hart, if Mitch is starting, Josh Hart will be in that second unit, and maybe we'll get some fast break points from him. But he's not really somebody to lean on for points. But in the playoffs, we're gonna need it. We're gonna, particularly in that, the first round too. Detroit ain't no slouch, so we're gonna need it.
What they'll do is they'll run like a high volume, like a good scorer with the second unit, because Mikal Bridges, he's starting to pick up the scoring. The last couple of games he's been really good. So they'll probably run him or Brunson at that time with the second. I don't know. Like he'll mix and match Tom Tibbs, or keep Cat in there or something like that. He'll keep a scorer in there because he has more options now, especially with Bridges, picking up the slack on scoring. OG Anunoby didn't have a lot of points yesterday, but he was very active. That's another guy they could keep, for a couple of minutes with the second unit. So he has options, Tom Thibodeau.
For sure. Jarrell, anything in that Miami game that stood out for you?
When it comes to the rotations, I could tell that Precious probably won't be in it once Brunson gets back. I think it's a wrap.
He's barely in it now.
Right. I think it's a wrap for him because of Mitch. And I think eventually Mitchell Robinson is going to start and Josh Hart will be coming off the bench. I think that will be the two-headed monster punch from him and Deuce coming off the bench. I think will be it. I know it's hard to, think that you can get consistent points from Josh at any time, whether he's starting or not. But I think that's the answer, whether you like the answer or not. I think Josh Hart is going to be our second leading scorer coming off the bench. Shaman gave us a little showing. I'm not the biggest fan of Shaman like a lot of people are. Like he gave us 25 minutes, 9 points, 0 assists, 3 rebounds. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to come off the bench and, shake the world up at all. But I think we still can, use a little bit of upgrade at that position, going forward. But right now, he's fine. I don't dislike Shaman, but I still do think we need an upgrade off the bench going forward after this.
We need a primary scorer off the bench.
Period. Yeah.
And I think every team would love that. Every team would love to have like a Jordan Clarkson or somebody, off the bench who can create for themselves and others.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not something we have right now. And Tom Thibodeau really hasn't run a Bridges or Anunoby with that second team as a primary. Like he's just mixed it up a lot. It's not like Bridges is definitely the guy. This is Bridges' turn to run with that second unit. I just haven't seen that consistently. Maybe that changes when Brunson gets back.
I mean, to me, it should change because you could tell that Mikal Bridges is way more comfortable without playing with Jalen Brunson on the offensive end to me. So to me, it seemed like he should be the one running that second unit. He's already like our second primary ball handler anyway. So I don't see why he can't be the primary when Jalen Brunson is on the bench.
Not only can he be, I think it moves Deuce into a role that works better for him, just off the ball, knocking down the 3-point shot, closing, attacking closeouts, playing the primary, ball handling in that second. It just moves Deuce into what I think is where he's best, which is playing off the ball.
Only thing with that, when it comes to the minutes coming off the bench, how many minutes would you give campaign then in the playoffs?
He may not. If you're gonna go Bridges and Deuce and Hart.
So say if Mitch is starting and you're assuming that Josh Hart is coming off the bench, who are the 3 people coming off the bench? Him, Deuce, and who else? If we do an 8-man rotation.
Right, it's only gonna be that is true.
It's either gonna be Shamet, Precious, or Campaign. Yeah, that's my dilemma right now. Like out of those 3, I guess it's not a dilemma. It's going to be between Shamet and Payne. And to me, the way that the minutes is going right now, Landry Shamet is the answer for Tibbs right now. But I don't know how it is going to be in the playoffs.
But you're going to need a center, So either you run in Cat or Mitch a little bit with that second unit.
Yes.
Or you're going to run Precious.
But see, now Precious wasn't playing in a 9-man rotation. Now we're asking him to play in an 8-man rotation. So I don't know how that's going to work, man. But that's probably another subject for another day. Going off topic a little bit.
Yeah. Geoff, anything you've seen rotation wise?
What's interesting to me, though, is, and I think this is the big conundrum with the Knicks, is that Josh Hart plays his best when he shares the floor with Towns. Like that is the combination that works best. And so if you're shifting Josh Hart to the second unit, you're not optimizing him on the floor because unless you're overextending Cat. And so I think you kind of have to be a little bit careful with that, because I think that tandem, especially in the pick and roll, is outstanding. But I don't think it's any accident that Hart is having a career year, and he's playing the majority of the time with Towns. I don't think that's an accident at all. So I don't think it's a simple. I don't think it's as simple as juggling 2 balls. I think it's more like juggling 6 or 8.
Yeah, I agree.
Finding the proper balance, because it seems like every time you insert this person, then it causes this issue, and there's never a situation that doesn't have issues. So it's kind of like you said earlier, you're choosing, all right, what do we need in the moment here? Are we needing a team that needs some rim protection? Well, then we're going to go with Robinson. Do we not care? Are we okay without the rim protection in this instance? Maybe that's more Josh Hart, And the one thing that Robinson does that nobody else other than Hart does is rebound. Like, I really feel, and Precious is a good rebounder, but it just, I don't know. I feel like Hart and Robinson do a much better job in that category. And I think that's why he's always reluctant to not have Josh Hart on the floor, is because without Mitch in the lineup, which we were for so long, where's our rebounding coming from? And Cat's a good rebounder, but even, he's second best in the league, but that's only going to be probably 14 boards a night. That's not going to win you a game, and you got to get stops. And so if you play small, where is the rebounding from the guards? OG's been much better on the glass of late, but Bridges is not a rebounder. Brunson is not a rebounder. Deuce isn't really a rebounder. And they all have their pluses in other areas. It's just not one of their strengths. And so, and even guys like Campaign and Landry Shamet aren't going to be big on the board. So, the rebounding, I think, is what is the thing that that kind of puts a monkey wrench into things. So, it's going to be tricky moving forward, because there are no perfect answers, and getting the balance of what is the optimal solution is going to change from game to game and matchup to matchup. So it's really going to be incumbent upon Thibodeau
in the game as well.
Right.
Game to game, but in the game as well. Yeah,
absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah. I will say also about Mitch, he helps us with the offensive rebounding and those second chance points. Particularly, we haven't been as efficient a team since the All-Star break, so that's going. Hopefully, we can get back to shooting well, and then if we get second chance points, that's just gravy on top of that. But I think Mitch really has to focus on the defensive rebounding as well. So a lot of times when we see Mitch has 9, 10 rebounds, we think like, oh, that's great. He's helping us, end the possession. But those defensive rebounds, in my opinion, is going to be super important as well. Any thoughts on that?
I think that's brilliant, and not only that, but what in my mind, what I'm encouraged about that is with terrific wing defenders like we have in Bridges and OG, he's going to be able to stay at home more, and he'll be in better position to rebound. Whereas if you're in drop and then you have to help and then you're coming over and this, that, and the third, sometimes you're not able to get in good defensive rebounding position. And so I think that's going to help him and help us get stops. And I think, what are we, second in the league defensive rating since he came back? And we were improving even when Jalen was in the lineup. So it's not just a matter of replacing Deuce with Jalen, which helps defensively, but it's not simply a matter. The defense has been improving probably for the last month or so, I would say. But that's kind of my concern with it is but I thought the other night, I think he was 4 and 5, so he was doing it on both ends. So
in 24 minutes. Absolutely, I agree with that. And to your point about the defense, you're right. Second in defense since Mitch been back. It's not all Mitch though. Mitch is playing 16 minutes, 18 minutes against Miami, 24 minutes. It's not all Mitch. Mitch is helping. To your point, some of it is Mitch. Some of it is also the fact that Brunson is out and he's being replaced with Miles McBride. You know, Miles McBride is guarding the point guards. Now Bridges can guard the small forwards. To me, that's helping our defense even more than Mitch, what Miles McBride is doing. But I also think, to your point, Geoff, overall, the defense is better. Overall, the effort is better. Hitting your spots has been better. And I'm gonna have to watch the game over. But one of those games, I forgot which game it was. Towns' help defense was really good, but that's pretty inconsistent. And I know people want to let him off the hook as far as that's concerned. I'm not. I do think his rotation and his team defense can be better than it is, and that would really help. I mean, he's not a strong rim protector. That's an understatement. He's not a rim protector, but if you can rotate and get to your spots, if we need to roll with an offensive lineup, like, it can't be a shit show. You know what I mean? Like, if we have to run with that offensive lineup, Bridges is doing what he's supposed to do. OG is doing what he's supposed to do. They get beat, they get hit with a screen, they're a second behind or whatever, a split second behind, and you don't come over at all. Like, that just can't happen. So hopefully in the playoffs, if he's just he needs to be a lot better as far as that's concerned. That would help our defense tremendously. Just rotate over and be where you're supposed to be. Any thoughts on Tom Thibodeau leaving the starters in? We were up 589 points with like 9 minutes left in the game, and the starters are still in the game. And I get it, you want to see Mitch and Cat together, but I don't know. I would have liked to have seen him empty the bench a bit earlier. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like, I don't want to feed into that narrative. But yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, we lost the quarter. I mean, we won the game. We lost that quarter by like 2 or 3 points. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a fine line when you should pull your starters. I think every coach is different.
It was like 179 to like they had 67 points, and we had like 108 or something like that.
He didn't start pulling people until it was like 3 or 4 minutes left. Yeah, so he definitely could have pulled them a little earlier than that, but I don't know. Maybe if I saw it on a more consistent basis. He doesn't always do that. But I guess maybe he was scared that a comeback was coming the other way because we came back on them. I don't know what Tom was thinking. He's crazy.
Yeah.
None of the starters
PTSD.
played more than 32 minutes, though.
Say that again?
None of the starters played more than 32 minutes, though. I don't think that's – I don't consider that to be – I mean, for this team, when they usually play 38 to 40, that's a big rest for them. I mean, so,
that's true.
That is
true.
You
know, I don't know. Like, yeah, maybe so. But how many times have we seen in this NBA that team makes 4 3-pointers in a row, and you go from a laugher to I have gray hair that's falling out, in a matter of moments. We've had plenty of those games this year, and I think he kind of played it right. The bench got, I think the rookies, that all got like 3 minutes or so at the end, which is more. Usually he doesn't do that till a minute and a half. So, small steps, right? I think your overarching point is correct, but I don't know that game is the one to like get up in arms about. But one cool fact is that we swept the Heat this year, and we scored 116 points in all 3 games. That's kind of fun.
Wow.
First time we've swept them since 92-93 when Riley was our coach, and we beat them 5-0 that year.
Wow.
Nice.
All right. Stay tuned. We're going to get to the double big segment. I have a lot of questions. Really interested to hear what the panel has to say, as well as the chat. But for those who listen to James Dolan, he was on the Roommates podcast with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. Anything that stood out to you from that interview for those who watched it?
I thought it was very, very personable. A lot of people have never heard James Dolan's voice. I think I've only heard it a few times. I know some people in their 20s probably never heard him speak at all. He doesn't do interviews. I was completely shocked that he actually did that one. I know Jalen Brunson got a relationship with, Leon Rose and Tibbs, but to get James Dolan on the podcast, that's a huge get. Like, I didn't think that was possible. I thought he did way better than I thought he did. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect to be, too pleased coming out of it simply because it's just an owner talking. Like, I didn't expect much, like many good things, but he came off as personable. He came off as, not a jerk. He came off as, just a regular guy that still has passion for the game. He's never selling the team. He's going to keep it into the family. It was a very, very good interview. I thought it was insightful. And, James Dolan, he seems like a regular guy. He's just really, really rich.
Yeah. And I liked, that he was pretty open and honest. He didn't seem defensive, maybe there was some question, like they didn't ask him the Oakley question or anything like that. But he talked about, the mistakes that he's made and, just taking a step back. He said, you think you know a lot about the game, but you don't know compared to those who are actually, general managers and coaches, you don't know much, and he finally had to realize that. I thought it was very insightful. To me, I thought whenever I thought of James Dolan, I always thought of somebody that was just like real sensitive, can't deal with criticism, but he came across, like you said, as very, very personable. Yeah. Anything else?
Well,
Right.
I think it takes. I'm not a huge James Dolan fan, but I think it takes a lot to get up on a platform like that and admit that you didn't know what you were doing, and that you made mistakes, and that and really kudos to him. He's staying out of the way, and let the basketball people he hired make their make the decisions and go with it. And, you play in your band and do your thing and be a super fan like everybody else and spend the money. And he doesn't mind writing the checks and, let's have a peace treaty between he and Oakley and I'm good to go. I mean, I'm not going to hold grudges against him. I think that it's important that because that's not the only incident that, we had sexual harassment in the building with Isaiah Thomas, and that whole Anuka Brown Saunders mess was not good. And he was in the middle of that. And so, but again, like not every one of us gets all of our bad decisions put on the back page of the sports section like he has. Yeah. So, I'm willing to cut him some slack if he just continues to stay out of the way.
Yeah. I liked when he talked about basically holding the front office accountable. That's this is the plan. This is the path that we're going to take. This is the path where we think we're going to be successful. And then they'll come to him and say, there's been a change, there's been a deviation, and he'd want to know why, basically. But he said when it came to not necessarily the Rangers, but the Knicks, there really hasn't been that much deviation from the plan. So that was good to hear too. They keep him in the loop, and he holds them accountable. Yeah.
I thought it was good. Good interview.
Yeah, he did talk about his father and trying to get the Sphere, that stadium, up and running, and didn't think he would get the money at some point, and talking to his father, and his father is telling him that, encouraging him to stick with it. Really, really good. Really, really good interview.
Right. I know a lot of people get real quick. I know a lot of people get on him for not liking criticism and being sensitive. I don't know what I would do if I owned the Knicks.
Yeah.
I might not,
especially through that 2 decades. I would have been sensitive too.
Right? I might not listen to y'all either. It's not like I'm gonna be listening to fans if I own the Knicks. Like, I'm gonna run it how I feel like I would want to run it. So I guess it just depends on what type of owner you are, what type of person you are in general.
Yeah. And he did say getting to a point where what others thought didn't matter. And that took him some time to get to that point. And his father's shadows, right? People want to know what is he gonna do? No, Greg, his father died in December, I believe. I think it was this past December.
Recently.
Recently. Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into the double bigs and the Twin Towers, playing Cat and Mitchell Robinson together, let me give a shout out to Grimes, Quentin Grimes doing his thing in Philly. Little shit show over there, right? Embiid is out. Paul George has been shut down. Maxey missing games for various reasons. And Grimes, this is not just the 46 points, right? There was a 39 or 30 something, 28, 20 this, or just really doing his thing with the touches. And you could say he's putting up points on a bad team, but I don't know how many people you can give that many touches to and they come through like these past, 10, 12 games, whatever it is. And listen, when he was here, for me, it wasn't about him being a bad prospect as much as it was about the team changed from being a team that's developing young players to a championship contender, like boop, like almost overnight. And then we had him in a role where we were counting on him to knock down shots, and he just wasn't there. He just wasn't ready. He was a third-year player who played maybe 1.5 years a game, right, due to injuries. He just wasn't performing at the level that particular team needed him to perform at. And they decided that, listen, we needed bench help going into the playoffs. And, he went for, who was it? Burks and Bogdanovich, I think it was, to get us that bench help. And I don't know. This could be the beginning of him breaking out. Or this could be, as Geoff told me before the show, at the end of the season when Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickly would have those triple doubles and all of those. And they've been solid players in the NBA, good players in the NBA, but not like breakout players. So it remains to be seen next season. Is this a breakout season for him, or just taking advantage of opportunity? Any thoughts on Grimes before we move on to the double bigs?
Queen, before thoughts on Grimes, you sent shout out to Grimes and next season may break out. I want to say shout out to DX Relish, who takes this season for believing in his team. He says this season happened so we could win a chip next year. So he thinks Philly's going to win a chip next year. So shout out to him for believing in his team.
It's a Doritos chip. They're going to get a whole bag of them.
Yeah.
So
like Embiid and Paul George ain't getting any younger. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So, but you got to appreciate the love he has for his team. Yeah. And shout out to Quentin Grimes for playing well.
Yeah, he's playing well, man. He's getting more comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys looked at the lineup that he played with that night, but somebody got to make the shots, and he was that someone who made the shots. Salute to him. He's getting comfortable, man. That's good for him.
Yeah.
What does he get paid this summer now? Like, let's just say these last 15 games, he continues on this bender. Like, if he has just like this crazy Linsanity type stretch where for 20, 25 games, legitimately looking like an all-star when you're putting up 30, 35. What does Philly do with his contract? How much are you going to pay that guy for, you obviously don't want to just let him go, but you don't want to pay him a max salary either, because he hasn't done anything, long term. Do you give him Emmanuel Quickly money or less than that? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be a tough decision
They let him
for
go.
them. But I'm not maxing him out for playing, well, at the end of the season. Like, yeah, that's going to be tough for them.
Well, he's at least he's a restricted free agent, so whatever anywhere he wants to go, they can match it if they want to.
If I'm a team like Brooklyn, I give him a huge contract. Like if you're not worried about the cap the next couple of years, I just offer him a big thing and just see if Philly has to bite the bullet on it. In other words, if you lose him for nothing, are they willing to do that? Not every team can do that, but if you're Washington or Brooklyn or one of those teams, I think it's worth a shot. I mean, I think I would do it if I was a GM. One of them, and Brooklyn's famous for it. They did it with several guys like Alan Crabb and folks like that when they were rebuilding the first time. So, I mean, it really puts Philly in a difficult spot. You've got all these big name guys making all this money not playing, and you got this young kid who you don't know if he's the real deal or not. But
Right.
Are you gonna pony up to find out? Because it looks right now like Maxey and Grimes could be a foundation for a decent team.
Right. They're already over the second apron, correct?
I'm not sure. I don't know about their finances.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's going to have a lot to do with whether or not they're able to sign him to a long-term contract or match, a contract. It's going to be interesting. All right, let's get into the topic of the day, the double big lineup. Mitch played 24 minutes, against the Miami Heat. I'm not sure how many minutes him and Cat played together, but I know in garbage time, Tom Thibodeau, that wasn't the only time they played together, but he gave them some extended time together in garbage time, just to kind of get that feel of playing together. I'm getting the sense that, at some point Mitch is going to start. To me, that's not the biggest deal. Mitch starting, to me, is more about how many minutes are they going to play together, right? Are they going to play? If Mitch plays 24 to 26 minutes, is every minute Mitch on the court going to be, with Cat? To me, that's the bigger deal than, whether he starts or not. But the first question I have is, with the change in the NBA to more three-point shooting, I think 39.2% of shots this season come for three from the three-point line. I think teams are putting up on average 37 threes a game. Is a double big lineup the way to go in today's NBA? Like, I feel like, Tom, I'm not going to say what I feel. It's Tom Thibodeau, like a relic of the past, like doubling down on rim protection in a league that has changed considerably. Ajay, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
What about perimeter? What about our 3-point defense?
What about a 3-point defense? I don't know if he's a relic of the past, but the thing is, Tom Thibodeau, he's known. He's literally famous for being a coach, like a defensive-minded coach, right? And at times this season, you're like, well, where is that great defense that we talk about Tom Thibodeau? Yeah, I understand, personnel has something to do with it, but if you're like this great defensive guru, you're gonna make whatever guys you have. If you have James Harden on your team, you're gonna make him play defense somehow. All right, but we haven't seen that. So I think And this is not talking about Mitch, because Mitch, he brings something positive on defense, okay? Because he plays, he protects the rim, and he plays like when he has to play out, he has to guard out on the perimeter, he does. And he closes out on those three-pointers and, pretty efficiently. He doesn't foul them a lot, and he doesn't block them, but he disrupts them. Like
Right.
he takes the focus away from the shot, and he kind of bother the shooter that way. And I mean, I think I kind of think so. He really needs to. He's really, his mind is still in the way the game used to play in the back, where the guy down low, where most of the shots would come down low. But that's just not the case. I mean, these guys are much better shooters now, and they shoot more, and they shoot a higher percent. They score at a higher clip from the 3-point line. So we try, because that's why we have those wing defenders, right? It just hasn't worked, or it hasn't worked out yet.
Right.
But I don't know that it's not going to work out. But I think that was the point of the front office getting Mikal Bridges, getting OG Anunoby, keeping Deuce McBride. Those are guys who could guard out on the perimeter. Somehow it hasn't worked, but we need to figure out a way to focus, to close out, to make it tough for the guys, for the perimeter shooters in the NBA, because a lot of games this season we lost because we couldn't check the three. A lot of them.
Well, let me give the quote before Geoff goes from Tom Thibodeau. When you have Mitch and Cat out there together, 2 7-footers, when OG's on the front line with them, you're so long, the basket's protected, 2 7-footers. If you get by one, you've got another waiting, huge. And OG's uniqueness, another really long athletic guy guarding everyone. Again, just really focused on rim protection. And I guess, the same question, just do you, I mean, this is a general question, right? We're going to get into the specifics in terms of Cat and Mitch for our team and what we need. But this is just a general question. Is Tom Thibodeau plugged into what's going on in the league, or does he see something, at least that I don't see, when it comes to playing a double big in this era? Geoff, and then Jarrell.
Well, I think it's kind of an interesting thing, because in general, is it like a broad spectrum kind of big picture? I would say that playing multiple bigs is generally a non-starter in the modern NBA, although the Cavaliers seem to do it pretty well, and they have the best record in the NBA, so it's not impossible to do it.
Right.
You just have to have the right two guys that can complement each other the way that Mobley and Allen do. I'm not sure if Towns and Mitrov are that combo or not, but let's be honest, we've played Boston without Mitch several times this year, and we couldn't stop them then anyway. So how much worse is Mitch going to be? We were already giving up 100 bazillion points per game. If we give up 100 bazillion and 8, then what difference does that make? I don't think it would be that. And I agree with JJ that is definitely a matchup issue, but it's a matchup issue for us regardless of what 5 people we put on the floor. But what I like about the pairing between Towns and Robinson is that Towns is an excellent 3-point shooter. So you can surround them. You can put OG, excellent defender, Bridges, excellent defender, have them both spaced out at the corners, and then you have Robinson or Deuce. I mean, not Robinson, Brunson or Deuce as your up top as your lead guard, with Towns out there too. The floor is still spaced well. You've got Robinson in the dunker spot. So I think you're not going to sacrifice as much offense as you would if, say, you have Hart and Robinson in the game at the same time with Cat, because then I think you're running into too many non-shooters. But but it makes Robinson playable in certain situations with those 4 guys. And I think you could still have a functional offense. Because let's be honest, the thing about teams like the Cavs and the Celtics is you have to match them bucket for bucket. You have to get stops, but you have to be able to score the ball too. You can't have that lineup that where we have 4 non-shooters on the floor. Yeah, we're stopping them sometimes, but not enough makes a difference. And then the other thing is, if you can cut down on the driving of guys like Tatum and Brown, then I think they get fewer wide open 3-pointers, and especially if you're surrounding them with our best perimeter defenders in Bridges. If you have Bridges, Deuce, and OG out there, for example, I think you can really cover a lot of ground, cover a lot of distance, and make them beat you more one-on-one than just beating you with the pass, which is what Boston does better than anybody. Is just boom, boom, boom. They get you in rotation, and then you're cooked. Well, if you can play where you don't have to rotate quite as much, you're not going to neutralize their attack by any stretch of the imagination. But I think if you're right there on them when they're shooting the 3, it's a lot better than, Hauser getting wide open, or what's that Pritchard kid, just wide open every second of every day. And even Derek White and Drew Holiday, because you're having to collapse the defense and shift this guy this way and this guy that way. There are no good answers, but it may be a better answer.
Yeah. I agree. I think also, even if there are disadvantages to the double big lineup, every team is not going to be able to take advantage of it, right? When you look at the scouting report, everybody knows how to beat Boston. There's a scouting report on how to beat Boston. There's a scouting report on how to beat the Knicks. But is your team good enough to execute it? You know what I mean? So that lineup, if there are any weaknesses, the teams that can exploit that weakness, we may not see them till the semifinals or the Eastern Conference or the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think the other thing to add is people talk about Mitch vertical spacing, and that's true too. But because of his offensive rebounding, you can't really leave him, right? Because of his offensive rebounding, you pretty much have to stay attached just to make sure when that shot goes up, that gives you a better chance of boxing him out, as opposed to giving him an offensive rebound and extending the possession. Jarrell, your thoughts?
I think with me, it all depends on what or who those 2 bigs are that you're playing. Ultimately, to me, in team sports, I think versatility and roster construction is everything. Like if I'm a GM for a basketball team, I want at least 3 bigs on my team, regardless of what type of style I play, just for the versatility, because I think matchups is everything in the NBA.
Right.
Especially if it comes to a playoff series that's going to go down to 7 games. I want to have the versatility to have Mitch and Cat on the floor if it's possible, and have another big just in case something happens to either one of them. That's just how I am. I knew that this was coming when it came to Mitch and Cat. Like Cat did it with 2 years with Rudy Gobert playing the 4. The way that Tom Thibodeau coaches anyway, I knew it was going to happen. But to answer your question, yeah, it can work. It just depends on who those 2 bigs are and what they do. Every 2 bigs aren't like Cat and Mitch. The Bucks start 2 bigs. Giannis is an animal. Like he's different. He's a special big, but he's still 2 bigs. It's not just Cleveland. It's a couple other teams that start 2 bigs too. Orlando, even Denver.
Who's Orlando though? Wendell Carter is not that. He's
big. He's 6'11".
Paolo Banchero and
they're a bit.
I wouldn't consider Paolo,
but they're a little more.
I mean, like
mobile.
real power forwards, like, or so you mean when you say two bigs, you just really mean like two centers,
like 2 7-foot, two centers. That's basically
two centers. Yeah. I mean, Giannis can play either or, but yeah, he's a unicorn. He's different. But I see what you mean. But to me, it all depends on the matchups. Like, of course, you can't play that with Boston. It's not going to work. But just like Geoff said, it's not going to work regardless whether you play small or big with them. That's just how good they are. But yeah, for me, it's just versatility. If I want to play that way, I can. Or if I don't want to play that way, I can. Like, Tom Thibodeau should have that option. It should never be, he don't have enough bigs like it was in the beginning of the year.
Right.
Like he has to have that option. I think any coach should have that option.
Yeah. Do you think what do you think is the optimal amount of minutes to play together? Do you think every minute that Mitch is out there, which I think Mitch is, I think he averages 20. The most he's played, I don't think he's ever played more than 26 minutes a game, if I'm mistaken. So if he gets to that 26 by the playoffs, do you see him and Cat playing 26 minutes together? Do you see what do you think is the optimal breakdown, or do you think it should be based on the matchup?
I think it definitely depends on the matchup. Just like Tibbs even said it when it came to his wings. When Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are on the floor, our wings are going to be on the floor. When they're on the bench, our wings is going to be on the bench. So as long as two bigs are out there, our two bigs should be out there. And, unless, Mitch has some type of minutes restriction still. But like you said, he never played more than 26, 27 minutes a game. That'll be his ceiling. But as long as it's working, play them together. If it's not working, sit Mitch, have him play less together. But, it should work. I don't see it not working in the long term. But, you're just going to have to sacrifice a little bit of offense. But I see it working. Like it worked with Minnesota. They didn't win the championship, but they got close. They went to the Western Conference Finals. I think Cat playing the 4 was a big reason for that. I think at this point of his career, he can't. It's not like he can't play the 5, but defensively, he's obviously a mark out there. So I see, why coaches, not just Tibbs, the coach from Minnesota as well, want to put somebody with him that can cover the rim.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think to me, it's going to be interesting to see what the mix is. Cat's poor defense got us to this point. Right. Not that Mitchell Robinson would not have played, he would have, but this is like a necessity, given Cat's poor defense. Geoff, did you want to say anything before I ask the next question?
Just that Cat's foul trouble propensity is another factor in the equation also, because he'll pick up 3 fouls in the first half, 2 of them because they're charges. And then, it'd be nice to have someone like Robinson who you can plug in and just play at the 5. And again, then you have a lot more versatility with that second unit and who you can put around him and have that defensive anchor on the floor with your best defensive wings. So that gives us another look also for when Towns can only play 25 minutes because of fouls.
But that Geoff, Gerard, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm agreeing with Geoff. He's a good point.
But that brings me to my next question is, are you concerned, and I am, with Cat at the 4 defending power forwards in space consistently? So we're talking about Giannis, Tobias Harris if we play Detroit in the playoffs, Jason Tatum, Banchero, Franz Wagner. In terms of him either picking up fouls, right, trying to move his feet and defend them, or them just going off, because there's no way he can guard any of those guys. Any concerned about his ability to consistently defend in space at that 4 position? Ajay, we'll start with you.
So I think, and this is just me thinking, right? The strategy is yes, you do put him defending those fours, right? Because he's not fast enough to stay with them. Okay, but he's big enough to check them on the perimeter, of course, as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. But him not being fast enough, I don't think Tibbs see that as a problem, because if he gets beat out on the perimeter, where they going? To Mitch. He feels like he has that protection back there, or there are other defenders back there who could disrupt the play, you know, and to stop that from being successful. I think that's the logic. I think that's what he was been banking on all season, that if he has those two guys out there, when Cat gets beat out on the perimeter, there's really nowhere to go unless, that guy could pull up for the midi or whatever. But otherwise, they're not going anywhere, and they're not.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they get by him cleanly without a foul, without a foul, because you're right. If they get by him cleanly, Mitch is there. I don't want Mitch getting into foul trouble, right? Stepping up, trying to, cover for Cat. I'm just concerned that Cat gets to pick up a foul before the guy even gets in the middle. Anybody else concerned about Carl Towns guarding fours in the Eastern Conference in space consistently?
Depends
Jarrell
on the four.
and
Oh, sorry. I said it depends on the four.
Okay, you can say more about that.
Well, go ahead. Let Jarrell go first. I kind of stepped on his toes there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Man.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, it definitely depends on the four. And I'm concerned when he plays fives. Like, he's not a good defender, period. So I think, trying to, I'm concerned, but it's just the same level of concern when he's out there regardless. Like, I don't think he's the best defender, whether he's playing fours or fives. And depending on the four, he might still not be playing the four, depending on who else is. Like I said, it's all about matchups. Like if like Paolo Banchero, I don't plan on him playing Paolo. Somebody else is either going to have to be OG. Yeah, I'll probably put OG on him. Like, he'll have to play somebody else, but then that means he might be switched on Franz Wagner. That's not going to work either. But
because the issue. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say what Tom Thibodeau said, like when Mitch, Cat, OG, and Bridges, that's a lot of wingspan on the court at the same time. So he's going to have to move his feet, but it's just going to have to work. I think he's going to be concerned regardless whether he plays the 4 or the 5 or the 3.
Or the 5. And the thing about it is you can't hide both of them.
Right.
Like you want to put, like right now, I think they put Cat. I saw Cat guarding like a smaller player against Miami or somebody. Well, they're all smaller than him, but somebody who wasn't very active in the Heat's offense. You can do that when Brunson is not here. Right. We usually put Brunson on the non-scorer. Now we're going to try to find 2 people to put them on. Geoff?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think as it is with Towns, if you have him against someone like the Joker or Giannis or somebody like that, someone who's just a massive human, like is not as fast and quick. I think maybe Giannis isn't a good example because he's a freak athlete. But if you get him against a bigger, slower, more lumbering player, I don't worry about it. It's like when you have Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum playing the 4 for Boston. That's barbecue chicken. Like, they're going to hunt that matchup every time and they're just going to kill him. Like that would be the concern there. Like, so for that, I think that would be trouble. If it's Mobley and Allen, I think he can hold his own. I think he'll be all right. I think he can, you can stick him on one of those 2 guys and he's not going to be great, but I think he can, I don't think he's going to be Swiss cheese either. But against these smaller, modern stretch 4s, I'm real leery about that myself. That is a massive concern, but that's what you signed up for when you traded for Towns. I mean, that weakness was not it was not a secret when we traded for him. So they've got to figure it out.
Yeah, and again, there'll be there'll be lineup changes. They might be games where Mitchell Robinson doesn't play as many minutes due to the lineup. And I want to say they might be times when Cat doesn't play as many minutes due to the lineup, but I just don't know if that's going to happen, just given how much we depend on him, offensively. So yeah, I'm interested to see. Do you think there'll ever be a time when Mitch will play the 4, or do you think that kind of defeats the purpose because that pulls him out from the rim and being that rim protector?
It could happen. I think, as Jarrell said a couple times, it's matchup dependent. Like if you feel like it's not going to kill you too badly, then that's what you're going to have to roll with. But I trust Mitch in space more than I do Towns for sure. I'm not saying he's great out there, but he's at least long and he can move his feet. He doesn't have the hip swivel problem that seems to be prevalent with Cat. But I actually thought that the defense wasn't awful at times with when Cat was in the lineup with Mitch. And I know small sample size, but I think they were like plus 45 when those two were on the court together. So obviously, like that, they wouldn't be that good. Like that's an outlier, but that's not to say that he couldn't, that it might not be a pairing that works. Maybe with those other lengthy, lanky guys, maybe Towns doesn't have to work as hard and can stay at home more and just focus on keeping his guy in front of him. And that's enough of a deterrent because he is 7 foot. So you do have to shoot over him at the very least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Anybody else want to comment?
I'm sorry. I'm reading what was on the screen.
Yeah. Do you think Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson pose the same concerns when it comes to spacing, or less of a concern with one than the other?
Well, I'm way less concerned with Josh because at least he attempts to shoot the ball. And it depends on what type of I don't know. I guess depending on the week, Josh Hart could really be the 3. That's what I'm saying. He's inconsistent. So it all depends on if he's hitting the 3 or not. Like if he's hitting the 3 and he actually, shoot it, I don't have any concerns with that. I think especially in the playoffs, I don't think he'll be gun shy at all. So as long as Josh Hart isn't gun shy, I'm fine with him shooting the ball because it'll go in eventually.
But he has such a reputation now. And I noticed this in the Portland game that even when he isn't gun shy, he's shooting it, they still don't respect him. You know what I mean? They like, sure. I think he was 4 of 6 in Portland and they didn't change their strategy at all. But to your point, Jarrell, when we played Philly, that was their strategy as well, to leave Josh Hart. And he hit all of them, it seemed like, to the point that they had to change their strategy. So yeah, I think you're right. Depending on which Josh Hart shows up in the playoffs, it can make a difference. Ajay?
Obviously, it's less of a concern with Josh Hart because he doesn't clog the lane. He doesn't play down low. I really wish he would stop passing on those open shots, though. Like, take him. Because especially with the shot clock running out, like, I don't know how many times, like there's no other option. Instead of taking a shot, he's trying to dribble and trying to get closer to the basket. Man, take the shot. At least you have a chance of hitting it. But he's definitely less of an issue. In fact, I don't even think Mitch, I don't see a spacing problem with Mitch so far. So I don't see that either. So, but if, on paper, it looks like Josh Hart would be less of a concern with that. But in the games, so far, I don't see it with Mitch. You know?
Yeah. Jack?
Well, I think the difference is with Josh, he can play the role of facilitator in the offense, and that's something that Robinson can't do. Like Josh can get you. I'm more confident in Josh having a double-digit assist game than I am him having a double-digit scoring game, and that's crazy because you get at least 2 points every time, unless it's a free throw, right? So, but you know, I think that especially in the starting lineup, when he has all that space, he can be a very effective attacker. I'm sure they're gonna sag off him some, but even then, I think he can use the dribble and make plays for other people. Even with that, I mean, it certainly hurts us when he's, you know, just absolutely reluctant to shoot, and we need him to be able to hoist up those shots. But I'd rather have a guy who's a potential yes on a shoot and can make plays than Robinson. You know, he's really offensive rebounds and dunks. Like that's all. And occasionally he'll beat a guy off a cut and dunk the ball and pretend like he's, you know, second coming of Magic Johnson or something. But you know, and we all have fun with that stuff. But you know, we know what Mitch's game is, and Josh is just more versatile. So they both are potential weaknesses, and I certainly don't want to see them on the floor together. But I think either one of them is manageable because of the different things that they bring. And I don't think they're so different skill set wise as players. I think they just pose different challenges.
Yeah, I wonder if there's things Thibodeau can do to mitigate whatever their weaknesses are. Like, so we talked about putting Josh Hart in action, have him initiate in the pick and roll, particularly when they have the big on him, right? So that big stays engaged, or if there's a switch, you know, advantage to the Knicks. I'm wondering if there's something similar, if we need it, that Thibodeau can do with Mitchell Robinson to help with spacing if needed as well, to mitigate that.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point.
Yeah. We'll see. Like we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I think we have 15 games left, and I think we're going to see that lineup together, you know, more and more. But I think the playoffs tell the story. Like even when I look at Cleveland and I look at Mobley and Jarrett Allen, the deeper you get into playoffs, there's going to be times when probably Mobley is going to have to switch over to, you know, to the center position. But yeah, we'll see the defense. We'll see the rest of the season, and I think the playoffs will tell the story. Any other thoughts on this pairing?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we haven't seen it enough, but I know it's coming a lot. Just by the way Tibbs thinks, I always knew that, you know, the two bigs was coming, you know, sooner or later. I think once Mitch gets his wind up, gets more in shape, I think, you know, Tom Thibodeau is going to unleash Mitch. He's going to be starting.
Yeah. Which, like I said earlier, which is fine. I'm just more concerned about, you know, is all of his minutes going to be with Cat? I don't think so. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to mix it up. I think there'll be some minutes with Cat and some minutes without Cat. But we'll see. I think Mitch's impact on the defensive end will be felt whether he's playing with or without Cat, for sure. You know, for sure. So, but I'm really interested to see how it works out, and I'm really interested to see how Cat defends in space. We might be looking at the same 3 fouls to the bench, you know, that we're getting with him playing the 5 position. I hope not. We shall see. All right. Anything else we didn't talk about before we get out of here? That you know, the Knicks play the next 4 games with teams under 500. I think I don't know the particular order, but San Antonio, Charlotte, Washington, Dallas, the next 4 games. The Knicks can really make hay and go 4-0. Just your thoughts on the next 4 games. Who do we play next?
Well, San Antonio.
At home, correct?
No, it's in Texas, I'm pretty sure.
San Antonio.
Just got back.
Right. Our next 2 games are away, San Antonio and then Charlotte. But we actually play 5 games before the next show.
What?
Wow.
We play
That's
5
true because
games.
we're going on Tuesday. We're going on Tuesday instead of, so we'll have a lot to talk about next week.
We play the Spurs, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Mavericks, and the Clippers on Wednesday. Like the Mavericks and the Clippers are back to back.
Wow.
So we play 5 games. So I'm 5-0.
Yeah. Yeah.
Queen,
There might be a pop-up show in there. So yeah, keep those notifications on.
And I'll say publicly what I told you yesterday, and I'll go all the way to the end of the month. I think we play 7 games till the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
We should go 7. The only game that might be a little, the team might put up a little resistance is Milwaukee Bucks. Otherwise, we should go 7-0.
You think Milwaukee's just gonna put up a little resistance?
A little
in Milwaukee.
Maybe, yeah, we might sweat. We might sweat a little bit.
You're right. You got that.
we might break a sweat a little. You know.
I like when AJ talk like that, man. I like that.
Put a little effort into that one, but otherwise, we're gonna run right through those games till the end of the month.
Even without Brunson. Who's Brunson? Who's that guy?
I love the confidence, AJ.
Captain can rest. Let it, get right, man. Take your time.
Right.
Yeah, because
we'll see you in April, buddy.
Yeah, hopefully when he returns, I know people talk about, oh, look how the team is playing without Brunson, and I've said this, I can't tell you how many times. I saw a lot of ball movement and player movement with Brunson, so like we have that history with him. So I'm not sure what happened after the All-Star break, but when he comes back, that we can get back to how we were playing the beginning of the season, get back to how we've been playing of late, and have the defense, the better defense with Mitch and the team overall, and the clutch play from Brunson down the stretch, which you need in the playoffs. Things just get bogged down at times, and you just need somebody that can, create a shot. So, yeah, as soon as you can get back, JB, don't rush it, but as soon as you can get back,
right.
Get back to good and then get back on the court. That's what we need to see.
Yeah, and the thing about it is if he doesn't play, he needs 4 more games to be eligible for All-NBA. I don't, the Knicks are not going to rush him back. So he's, just so that he's eligible. But it would be, if he missed out on that by 4 games,
Yeah, but it's malpractice to put him back in too soon. Like he's here to win.
They're not going to do that.
Not MVPs,
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
And I don't think the All NBA would be the thing because he wouldn't win. I mean, he might finish top 5 MVP voting, but I don't know.
It's All NBA. But I think if he can play, not rushing him back, because the bottom line is you want him to play some games going into the playoffs anyway, right? You don't want his first game back to be a playoff game.
Absolutely.
Right? Unless it's absolutely necessary, and there was no way around it. But you would hope that he's back for at least 5 games before going into the playoffs.
Definitely get his feet wet, get back his conditioning, because what kind of look he's hardly coming out once the playoffs hit. He's going to be, we actually with campaign, we may actually get to sit him for 3 or 4 minutes instead of 1 or 2, but you're not going to see him on the bench very much. I would reckon.
Yeah, you're right. Jarrell mentioned that it's going to be an 8-man rotation. Deuce. Who else? It might be 6.
Deuce, Mitch, and the starting 5 from.
But Mitch might be starting. So if Mitch started, it'll be Deuce, Hart,
and the starting 5. So at least 7.
Deuce, Hart, and Shamet.
Yeah, Shamet or campaign.
Shamet or Payne.
Well,
they might play low minutes.
Geoff says 7. So in the playoffs, it could go 7.
Yeah, I think it might just be Deuce and Hart.
That's it.
With those other 5 guys.
That's not good.
It's happened before. It can happen again with Tom Thibodeau. Depends on the matchup. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see it.
He's not going to give charity minutes out in the playoffs. Like he wants to win. If he's going to ride his starting five hard, he's going to use his bench sparingly. I have a feeling like the two guys that play, like, let's just say it's Deuce and Mitch, just for the sake of argument, and it's been the starters for most of the season. I think Deuce should get 25 or 30 minutes. I think he will. I think he will. Mitch, I think like Obi Toppin minutes, like 15 or 16, maybe up to 20 if he's having a good game or Cat's in foul trouble. But other than that, that starting five was the best in the league for a long time this year. I think he's going to ride them like they secretariat.
So you don't think Mitch is going to start? You think that he'll get his minutes with Cat, but you think he'll come off the bench?
I do.
Okay.
I just think Tibbs is a creature of habit. I think he's real reluctant, to make those changes. He might do it. I'm wrong more than anybody, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did start Mitch. But I think he likes Josh Hart in the starting lineup. I personally, I prefer Cat at the 5, and I think he may also. If they continue to start strong like they did in the beginning of the year, I don't see him changing that just because he has Mitch. I mean, I think you'll see Mitch get the backup 5 minutes and then play spot minutes, 4, 5, 6 minutes with Cat if matchups deem it necessary. But I don't see Robinson being a 30-minute, and maybe not even. Well, he's not been more than a 25-minute a game guy his whole career anyway. So I think 20 is about his ceiling for his minutes.
Despite, so you weren't encouraged. You weren't. The 24 minutes he got the other game didn't kind of change your opinion that he might trend toward his usual 24 to 26.
He might. I love Mitch. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I know.
I just, to me, I just think that, I can see it both ways because I know he loves his rim protection. And I guess it really depends. I guess I'll say this. I think it depends on how good Mitch and Cat look together over this last 15 games. If that pairing and combination really looks like it works, then I think even if it doesn't start the game, it may finish the game. So, so I think it really depends on, and I think this is a proving ground, and I think that's one of the reasons why they kind of were still in the game when it was garbage time, because he needs to see minutes on the floor with those two together, and it's probably a good time to experiment when you're not, in crunch time in a game where you can, if it doesn't work, you've got some leverage to play with. But yeah, I'm not real sure how heavy they're going to lean on Mitch down the stretch here. I think it may be less than people think.
Yeah. I'm with you. I do like Cat at the 5. I think we're better offensively with Cat at the 5, but I held on to that for like 50 games, and defensively, you're just not winning with a bottom 10 defense. Now, the entire defense has been trending up, even when to your point, Geoff, even when Brunson was here, even when Mitch is off the floor, right? I hope that holds. Because then you could play that almost historic, offensive team. But if not, you got to play that team in spurts, because defensively they just was terrible, So let's hope everybody turns it up both offensively and defensively in the playoffs. And the Knicks can. The Knicks can, because I think there's just untapped potential both offensively and defensively with this team. So they definitely can turn it up. And we've seen teams who nobody picked, Dallas, Miami, Atlanta years back. Say that again.
Atlanta,
catch lightning in a bottle. Dallas, very Luka-centric at the time, but their shooting just turned around, and they were able to get all the way to the finals before the shooting evaded them. And the same thing with Miami, one of the poorest shooting teams in the NBA. They came from the play-in, if I'm not mistaken, to the finals, right? When they played Denver, their shooting they just automatically turned into a really good shooting team. And, so that can happen, with the Knicks as well.
And Indiana was not a good defensive team last year, but they got injury luck at the right time, and they ended up in the Eastern Conference Finals, right? And I don't think anybody mistook them for a lockdown defensive team by any stretch of the imagination. So sometimes it's luck and it's matchup dependent and those sorts of things. All of that stuff factors in too. But we'll see.
And I think Boston, if they do make it back to the finals, it's going to be a harder road this time than it was last year for them.
It's tough to imagine an easier road than the one they had last year. I mean, that's about as much of a free parking spot in the finals as you'll ever see. And even in the finals, I don't think they played a seed higher than a 4. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers were the highest seeded team they played in the entire playoffs. Think about that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm thinking about the road last year compared to this road this year. Even with if nobody's injured, who's stopping Boston other than Cleveland?
No, I agree. I'm just saying it's not gonna be like.
Cleveland's better than they were last year. If they have to face us in their second round, hopefully, those are two difficult matches, and maybe they get OKC or Denver in or the Lakers even in the finals. I think all of those would be considered better than the Dallas team that they ended up facing. So there are harder roads. I'm not saying they're gonna, we'll see what happens, but I just think it's kind of funny that if Orlando gets the 8th seed, they're like kryptonite to Cleveland. And that could be, they almost beat Cleveland in the playoffs last year, starting to play well again. If they get in as the 8th seed, I think that's the one team Cleveland doesn't want to have any part of, because they can match them size for size and they're dynamic defensively. I don't know if they can score enough points to win, but they can sure put a scare in Cleveland if they get there.
Let's go.
Yeah. Right. And that's to the what's that saying? Defense wins championships. You do need some defense, but in today's NBA, you got to be able to score. You look at that Orlando team; they're really, really good defensive team, but you're not holding these NBA offenses to 90 points, 96 points. If you can't score, you have to be able to score the ball. It has to be a bit more balanced. And if I had to choose, give me a top 5 offense and a top 12 defense. If I had to choose between like a number 1 defense and a number 12 offense that's having difficulty generating points.
Well, I never would have dreamed of saying this, but it looks like from the last month, it looks like the defense is more likely to be at that spot than the offense.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Like
this offense has just been, this offense has been like a reversal of when I look at this offense post All-Star break, it looks like last year's team. Brunson dominating the ball, shooting a shot, or finding somebody else to pass to, and then they get one shot, But hopefully we'll get back to ball and player movement. We'll see. All right. Any last words?
Man, salute to the chat, man.
Salute to the chat. Wiz, salute panel. Great show.
Queen, one
he ducking in late and acting like he was listening. All right, Wiz. Appreciate you. Appreciate the super chat last show that came in when we were going off.
We was going off. Yep.
Yeah. So I appreciate you.
I watched the game on ESPN last night, and when Tracy Morgan started throwing up all over the court,
Mhm.
and they were really professional about it. They didn't say much. They said like, yeah, a fan got sick courtside. That's what the delay was. So I don't know if anybody watched this thing on MSG if they, because Clyde would say, oh, Tracy Morgan's throwing up all over the place or something like that. So
We're 1-0 when Tracy Morgan throws up on the sideline. So we got to do it until he loses now. Sorry, Tracy.
Yeah,
they
reports
didn't
came
say-
out. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I didn't find out until this morning that what really happened. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm glad he's okay. That was a little bit scary.
Yeah, I think he said it was food poisoning.
Mhm.
Man, okay, all right.
I know. I like it, and they said he posted from his hospital bed. I'm like, he in the hospital from food poisoning?
Tracy Morgan got one drink too many, and he puked. That was that was a drink puke. All right. Of course, he couldn't get up and walk.
Too, I read though, so I don't know. I think he might have been genuinely sick.
Yeah.
Salute to Tracy Morgan though.
Yeah,
he's always there. He's a super fan, man.
Always there.
Always courtside.
Yeah. Shout out to Coach in the building on Dios NYK. Appreciate you. Jabroni Z, appreciate you. JJ always rocking with us. A Train. Appreciate you. I know, sis. 30 minutes we take. Whatever you could give us. Appreciate you. Kareem Grant. Greg was in the building. Curtis D. Sherman popped in a little bit to give me the business about Cat's defense. Then he left. King Ribby RM, appreciate you. HRM X Great, appreciate you. Old head in the building. DX Relish with the broken down Philadelphia 76ers, though. I hope you didn't trip trying to get on the show to let us know they're gonna win the championship next year. Right? Don't you get injured now. D Grant, I appreciate you. Kareem, I think I said Kareem East Blue Drew, always rocking with us on Dios NYK, holding down the chat with the constant reminders to hit the like building. If you haven't already, please do that. That definitely helps the algorithm. Lonnie Meeks, appreciate you. Stacks, what's that? Stacks Manzadu? All right, appreciate you.
Stacks Manzadu.
Yeah, I think Brooklyn Butch. Been a minute, Brooklyn Butch. Appreciate you, Double D. All right, if I missed you, Gerald B came in. 90s basketball is over. I hear you. All right, I appreciate everybody. Jarrell, Greg, Jarrell, Geoff, Ajay. I'll see you guys next Thursday. If the Knicks, I have to look at the schedule, see if the Knicks are playing it. No, they don't. All right. So next Thursday, well, there might be a pop-up show, right? So always keep that notifications on. If something happens, we may go. We may.
If God forbid we lose one of those games, because we're supposed to win every game till the end of the month. If we lose one of those games, it might be a pop-up show, man.
Yeah. Yeah, Monday, Queen's Court, right? Nothing but Knicks channel. The Knicks play Monday?
No.
All right, so regular time, 7:30 p.m. Me, Geoff, Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises, Lady and the Chef from Two Knicks Chicks, breaking down the week's slate of games and looking ahead to the upcoming games. All right. Until next time, family.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's
shine. Don't stop.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't stop.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't stop.
What?
Don't stop.
What?